anybody can literally put their hat on and call themselves a coach. And that's why I'm so passionate about coaches that are getting certified, because they've got some level of training. So when you're going to somebody who's supposedly an expert, you actually want to know that they know their craft, they know what they're talking about. But what happens quite often with these coaches is they go through a 6-month, 12-month, sometimes longer course. They do their mentoring hours, they do practice, they get their qualifications. They might go forward and get an International Coaching Federation qualification as well. But they're taught to coach, which is a fabulous thing. But they're not taught about the business of coaching.
Welcome to Playing with Perspective, the suspended animation podcast, where we hear real stories from real people and we tackle all sorts of fun topics in the areas of business, marketing, entrepreneurship, mindset, the arts, and, well, life itself. It's amazing what you will pick up. Thanks for joining us. Welcome back, everyone. Another great episode of Playing with Perspective, the suspended animation podcast. We're climbing. It's episode 223. And I am Darren Saul, your host. I have the fantastic Cathy Smith here with me today.
Everybody.
Nice to have you, Cathy. How are you?
I am very well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Now, everybody who doesn't know Cathy, Cathy is a dynamic and inspiring speaker, renowned author, and seasoned marketing expert with over 35 years of experience in the industry. Cathy founded Cathy Smith Coaching after noticing that brilliant coaches struggle to make a living from their practice. She recognized that coaches are often taught to coach, but not to run a coaching business, two entirely different skill sets. As the creator of the Coach's Marketing Roadmap, she helps coaches transform their practices into thriving businesses with actionable strategies for success. So everybody, please welcome Cathy Smith.
Thank you.
Cathy, so tell us, how long have you been a coach for?
So I've been a coach for 3 years. I started coaching because I thought I was going to get a qualification for the consulting that I had been doing for the previous 20 odd years. Yes, I started very young. But what I found that pure coaching is actually very different. So consulting is where you use your expertise and you tell somebody step by step how to do it. Whereas coaching is you ask probing questions to enable the person to actually work out how to do it. And that sounds really scary when you're not used to it. But it actually means that you come up with your own answers when the coach asks you the proper questions. And that makes it so much more powerful and stick. And it also means that if that solution doesn't work for whatever reason, you've now got the skills to be able to create other solutions, as opposed to following the step by step and one little thing doesn't work and suddenly you've got to start from scratch again.
Absolutely, so true. And funny, when I started doing a bit of marketing and strategizing and coaching, I didn't know the difference between a trainer, a coach, a strategist. And I realized that a coach is really someone who is with you along the way. Think of a football coach or a business coach or a ballet coach or whatever it is. It's not a trainer that trains your particular aspect and then leaves. A coach is with you to motivate you, inspire you, and help get the best out of you, as you said, along the way. They're like your partner in crime, so to speak.
Yes.
Inverted commas.
And sometimes you can outgrow your coach too. So you might have a coach that's helping you in your startup phase and they're very good at probing those questions. But now you actually need to go and get a mentor or a consultant because you need some skills where you've got a gap in your skill set. Or otherwise, sometimes it's just a case of that's where their skill set is. They're very good at that startup. And now that you're a bit more of an established business, you may need somebody else. So quite often we can have 1 or 2 or 3 coaches. We can also have a range of coaches and mentors. And sometimes we just need to change our service providers as we go along.
Yep, I totally agree. And I'd love to hear a bit more about what you did as a consultant. What were you consulting on?
So I started as a printing sales rep. a long time before internet.
All right.
And I was helping people to get the best out of their printing, because commercial printing way back then was quite a bit more expensive. There was no four color easy print gang running as there is now, and we can get everything done for next to nothing. It was very expensive. It took a long time and you had to get it right the first time. So that was where my consulting very first started. And then I morphed into Catco Enterprises, which is my other business, and that's a marketing consultancy. So I was helping people with their marketing and making sure that the money that they were spending on marketing was actually getting them a return on investment. People spend a lot of money on marketing that just goes down the drain into Facebook's pocket, into a consultant's pocket, into somewhere else, and it never brings you back that money. If it's not bringing you back that money, we say $1 to $3 extra every dollar you spend. Threes are good. If you can get more, even better. If you're not getting more money than you put in, you need to tweak it, change it. And if that's still not working, you probably need to kill it because it's not the right marketing for you.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, you can't just keep throwing money at a strategy that's not bringing you results. Doesn't make any sense.
People do, unfortunately, and they spend tens of thousands of dollars, particularly in Facebook, on ads that don't work because they go to broken links. They're trying to market to a cold audience the way they would to their friends and family, who are obviously much warmer or hot audience, or it's just too confusing. You go from one ad to something else and you've got no idea what you clicked on, and now you don't know what you're doing there, so you just bounce back out again.
Yeah, absolutely. So true. But I want to get into your coaching focus. Now, coaching is a fascinating industry. Apparently, I heard it's one of the fastest, if not the fastest growing industry right now. There are coaches for everything.
Yes.
Tell us a bit more about how you got involved with coaches, why you're so fascinated about helping coaches and working with coaches.
Yeah, it is one of the fastest growing areas. And one of the reasons for that is it's unregulated. So anybody can literally put their hat on and call themselves a coach. And that's why I'm so passionate about coaches that are getting certified, because they've got some level of training. So when you're going to somebody who's supposedly an expert, you actually want to know that they know their craft, they know what they're talking about. But what happens quite often with these coaches is they go through a 6-month, 12-month, sometimes longer course. They do their mentoring hours, they do practice, they get their qualifications. They might go forward and get an International Coaching Federation qualification as well. But they're taught to coach, which is a fabulous thing. But they're not taught about the business of coaching. And quite often these people have come from corporate. So somebody's done their marketing for them. They've done their invoicing. They've done their lead generation. They've done all the bits and pieces that you need to do to have a business.
They've done
So
their
they're
admin,
fabulous
they've done their
technique.
finances, they've done everything.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So they're fabulous technicians. They just don't know how to package it all together.
And why do you think schools and educational facilities don't even teach that at all?
Well, that is the $1,000,000 question. Quite often they will have like a 4-hour component in a 6-month course.
Yeah.
And potentially maybe some of the reasons is because coaching is their core modality. Marketing is not. They definitely should be adding in some marketing and some business training, because it's fabulous to turn out coaches. But unless you're going to be working as an internal coach in a coaching school or an organization that you are the internal coach, then you're not going to be able to create a thriving business if you haven't got those extra skills. Now, some people like myself came from a different business, so we can transfer the skills. There's quite a few people from IT that have come and they had IT business and they're transferring those skills, that sort of thing. So that's fabulous. But if you've had no business skills at all, it's a hard road.
It is. And it reminds me of that book. I can't think of the name of it, but they use exactly the same term you use, technician. Some people are a technician and they become a business owner, but they don't realize they have to have a whole different skill set and they have to have a bunch of all these different tools to survive as a business, not just a technician. Very different thing. But I forgot the name of the book. It was a very famous book. But anyway, might come to me later on. As a coach, do you think these days people should specialize more and more, or you should be broad?
So that's once again one of those $100 million questions, particularly in the life coaching industry, because people say that they can coach anybody. And yes, they can, but it's very difficult to get a referral to anybody. So if I say that I'm looking for a person that identifies as female, they live in Melbourne, they're between the ages of 30 and 35, et cetera, you can immediately say, I know that lady, or I know one of those people, or I don't immediately. But if you're telling me, or I'm telling you, I can coach anybody, then you're going, oh, is that my brother? Is that my sister? Is that somebody that doesn't identify as a gender at all? Is that somebody who wears pink glasses, who whatever it is? You've got no concept of who I'm trying to talk to. So it's not necessarily about not coaching everybody. It's about being able to get a message to people so that they can send you referrals. And if you do end up down the paid ads road, you definitely need to be very specific about who you're looking for and you're targeting, or that is definitely a way that you're going to spend a lot of money and not getting any return.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, marketing these days is 90% perception. And if
Yes.
people perceive that you're all over the place and you don't have a speciality and you don't know your target audience, they don't build any trust.
No.
They can't really get a sense of what you're doing. But if that's all you do and they know that's all you do and that's the only cohort you work with, they say, that's me, perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the other thing is it then starts to generate a better price. So you can now look at what you're doing with your packaging and what that investment's going to be. So if you're thinking about going to a GP, for instance, so a doctor, you know that you're going to pay a certain price. But if you're now looking at a GP that specializes in broken arms,
Yeah.
okay, so that's a different thing. So now they're saying you need to go to an arm doctor that's going to look at that shoulder as well as your arm because you've got a fracture and you're going to need this. And now they're saying you need to go to somebody else specific. The further you get along that chain, the less time you get with them and the more it costs. And coaching can be a little bit like that. So if you say you can coach anyone, you've got a base rate. But now if you can coach anybody who works in a specific area, then that increases your value or your perceived value. And then if you're coaching only CEOs that work for Fortune 500 companies and they're in Chicago, then that's a whole different ballgame to where that investment and that packaging can sit.
It is. And also the people that will do that will be talking and listening to the stories and the pain points and the challenges of that cohort day in, day out. So when you come with your very similar issues, they have all the solutions, whereas someone else might struggle to find out what kind of strategies to put in place because they don't come across it as often.
No, absolutely. And then when you are doing your messaging, you can start talking in your ideal client's language. So you can start saying the words that they are saying, the things that they've got in their head. I mean, we've all been on social media and this ad has followed us around and around and around. And then we've gone, oh, I wish they'd get out of my head. That is so me. It's because they're targeting someone that's either is you or is very, very close to you. And you're now saying, yes, I go there, I buy that brand, I do this. This must be the thing for me. Whereas if they're just saying, oh, buy my stuff, you're going, nah, don't want that. I'm out of here.
That's right. That's right. So true. Let's get granular because I want to really give the people that are budding entrepreneurs, budding business people that might have been technicians and are making that transition. What are some of the things that they can do to get their head around marketing, running a business, and working on the business as opposed to in the business?
So the first thing they need to do is get their messaging right. So think about who their ideal client is and how you're going to talk to them. So if we're saying that you're a specific person in a specific area and you talk specifically to them, they're going to opt in and they're going to say, yes, that's who I'm looking at. So it can be a demographic, it can be a location, it can be a type of person, it can be a segment. It doesn't really matter how you niche, but you need to niche because you cannot talk to everybody all in the same go. Even Facebook. If you look at Facebook, it started in a dormitory. So a few friends all got together and then they went, yes, this is working. So then they made it faculty of the university. Then they made it that campus. Then they got to a second campus. Then they made it a couple of universities. And after that, they went to world domination. But they didn't start trying to talk to everybody. So the first thing that you need to really do if you want to work on your business is work out who you're talking to, how you're talking to them, and what their three biggest pain points are.
Yep.
Because we all want to move away from pain sooner than we want to move to pleasure.
Yep, so true. So first step is get your messaging right, understand your target market, have a good sense of your marketing strategy.
Yes.
Yep. What would you do next?
Actually have a strategy.
Yep.
So it's amazing the businesses that don't. They either know very well what their product is, or sometimes they know their clients, which is great. But now what are you actually going to do? And that's another reason for niching, because now you've got a fair idea of who you're talking to, how they want to be talked to. So now you know where they're going to be hanging out. You know that they like visuals more than they like words, or their readers, they want to know blog posts and that sort of thing. They want to see you on video so that they can digitally get their hands and feel you and see how you sound. So by doing the strategy, you can go, okay, I'm going to spread out over a month. I'm going to be able to work out when I'm doing what. And it's not a case of, oh, it's Wednesday. Do I post this or that? Do I post it all? What am I doing? We spend so much time in our head because we don't know what to do. Whereas if we open up our calendar and we say we need to post this, this, and this, and we're going to put it up for next week so that we're not all panicking and worrying about it on the day, and getting that strategy of where it's going to go, how it's going to go. And then once we get to be bringing a little bit of income, it's who's going to do it for us. And that could be somebody in-house, it could be outsourcing to a VA, or eventually it may be to a marketing company. But just be aware, if you go down that route, you really need to be specific about what you want and what your targets are.
Yeah, I suppose you have to tell the marketing company what you want to achieve. Otherwise,
absolutely.
Yep.
And you have to test and measure it. So don't just give them a bucket of money and let them run away with it, because that money will be all gone before you can even sneeze.
Yeah. And do you like to focus on non-social media and non-digital styles of marketing as well?
Yeah, so it really depends on the client. So a lot of coaches, they don't want to be on social media. Not quite sure why, because in most cases it's free. So it's a great way to amplify your marketing, but it's not your only marketing. So you would never renovate a house that you're only renting. You wouldn't put on this great big patio, put out on the outdoor kitchen, spend all this money, and then find out the contract's not being renewed and you've thrown out. Well, that's what you're doing if you're building your whole business on social media. They changed the rules. Apparently, just recently, they've changed the rules on Pinterest, and you can no longer advertise weight loss products on Pinterest. So if that was where you had your whole weight loss coaching business, suddenly you've got no paid ads anymore and you didn't do anything. So you've got to be really careful with building too much on social. And we like to deal with people. So what do you get in the mail these days, Darren?
All junk.
Not a lot of anything, really.
Everything, all junk.
So what if you were a business owner and you were thinking about coaching and suddenly a very nice little package arrived in your mailbox? Would you open it?
I would.
You would, because, that's got a wow factor. So sometimes thinking outside of the box and going back to the old boxes, pun intended, will give you that wow factor. And particularly if you're trying to maybe get a foot in the door of a corporation to offer them a long-term coaching package. Something like that. You just need to do things a little bit differently. So it can be something as simple as sending something in the mail. It can be really understanding that person that you know that they really like strawberries and it's just become strawberry season, and sending the box of the freshest strawberries from the local greengrocer. There's lots of different marketing things that you can do that can give that wow factor. Social media, yes, it's something we need to do, but there's not a lot of wow left in social media at the moment.
And funny you should say that. The last month or so, I've been really reflecting on this. And I love digital. I love social media. I'm a big advocate. But I've been reflecting on this, and it's getting more and more noisy and more competitive every single day. So far as to say, I think we're kind of even going to be going back to newsletters again.
Yep. Yep.
But you've got to do them well.
Absolutely.
That's the key. If you do a newsletter, don't just throw out anything that's just substandard and pump it out. You'll have 0% open rates. But if you do it well and you really consider your audience and you segment your audience and you find out what they like to receive and what they don't, you can really do a great job marketing with your newsletters.
Absolutely. And the thing is, it's got to be client centric. It's not just about you getting out there and flogging your stuff. Oh, I've got this course happening. I've got one-on-one coaching. I've got whatever. It's not about that. It's about adding value ahead of time. What can you add to your client that goes, wow, this looks really good. If this is what they do for free, I wonder what their paid service is like.
Yep. Absolutely. Love that. Give people as much value as they can. They'll build trust. And when they're ready, they will buy from you.
Yes. And giving them the option to buy. So yes, you've got to be client centric. You've got to be adding that value, but you've also got to let them know that you do have things to buy, but not straight up in their face. Think about the way that dating works. Now, I haven't dated for a long time, but they tell me you can't walk up to somebody, give them a kiss and say, marry me in an instant.
Yeah, I could definitely say that doesn't work.
No, you might get a black eye and a bit more.
Yes. Or a drink poured on my head.
Yes. I hope that's not from experience.
No, it's not.
So when you're thinking about digitally wooing or even doing some of these other things that you can do, you've got to think about those touch points, about just giving them a little taste and saying, hey, here I am, and a bit more, but not something that's substandard. If you're giving them just rubbish and it's all buy my stuff, well, that's going to be even worse than asking them to marry you. That's just going to be you buzzing all over the place and trying to date 5 people at once. So you need to make sure that it's quality, but you need to make sure that you're just giving them little tasters to start with.
Love it. Perfect. You're establishing credibility. That's really what you're doing.
Yes, most definitely.
Now, in terms of how you work as a coach for coaches, do you talk to them about how to work as a coach, to how to manage their time, how to prioritize, or do you focus more on the marketing side of things?
We have a course called the Coach's Marketing Roadmap, and it goes right through from niching to how to set your packages to, yes, time management. Because particularly as coaches, we want to give everything to our clients, but we need to remember that burnout is real. And if we burn ourselves out, how can we actually help anybody else? So that work-life balance is really, really important. We need to be looking after ourselves as well. So yes, marketing is a huge component, but if you're just standing on the road yelling out, I've got a bottle of water for sale, and the cars are zooming past, it doesn't matter how fancy that bottle of water is. Nobody's going to stop.
Yeah, that's right. You better change your outfit or something.
Indeed.
Love it. But so true. Like I think about that more and more these days as well. A lot of the time I'm a solopreneur. There's lots of solopreneurs out there, particularly people that are starting as coaches and building their business. And everybody always says, like me, oh my God, there's not enough time in the day. You know, when am I going to fit everything in? I have to work on my business instead of working in my business. And so what's worked for me is I've just kind of fallen into this great pattern of getting up really early. And for the first few hours of the day, I'm really focused and clear, and I can get a lot of work done on my business. And then during the day, I'm working in the business. And maybe later on, I might do a couple of things as well that will help me generally strategize and work on the business again. Do you have any particular tips or tricks or anything that have worked for you?
So you mentioned one thing that's really important there. It doesn't matter whether you get up early or stay up late, whatever you want to do. The word was focus.
Yeah.
You really get focused. And that's unfortunately where most business owners go wrong, because we're just being pulled from pillar to post. We're running between a coaching call, doing a bit of marketing, making sure that invoice has gone out, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas if we can just get focused, and for a lot of people, batching things works really well. So they might have a day where they do all their coaching calls. So they're not sort of jumping out and into coaching mindset and into business mindset and into invoicing mindset. They're just staying in that coaching mindset. And one of the things that's really important for coaches is to be present. And you can't be present for your clients if you're jumping in and out thinking, oh, did I make that phone call? What have I got next? Oh, I hope this doesn't run over time, et cetera, et cetera. So work on a thing that works best for you. It might be a half day, it might be a full day, but make sure that you have solid blocks of focus time. And that for you might be an hour, it might be all day, but really getting clear on what you're doing on each day can make a huge difference.
Yeah, I love that. And you mentioned a couple of things that I'm really passionate about. Batching, definitely. I love segmenting my time. I'll say all my phone calls are going to be done in the afternoon. If anybody rings me during the day, if it's super urgent, I'll pick it up. Otherwise, it goes to voicemail and I follow them all up at the same time. I love batching because, as you said, a lot of the time we don't realize that the amount of energy and emotional energy that we expend jumping around from different type of task to different type of task is actually extremely high. If you just do one thing and just run into your system, you're in flow. But if you start ripping yourself from admin to finance to marketing to making a phone call to writing a document, you feel like you're exhausted.
Yes.
It's not a great way to work.
No. And your brain power is just getting depleted because we can't multitask. It's multi-switching.
That's right.
So when we're switching from one task to another, our brain has got to reset and go, oh, yes, that's right. I was doing this or I was doing that. And that's where we get really tired, even though we haven't supposedly done very much in a day. We've just jumped between here, there, and everywhere. So that can be really difficult. So we need to make sure that we're being much more focused about what we're doing.
Yeah, I love that. So far to say that when you're batching, you even might be cutting and pasting certain scripts and all sorts of things instead of recreating the wheel every single time. I mean, this all saves a lot of time. So it's all really about efficiency.
Yeah. And some of those sort of things can be automated. So you set up your booking system so that your customers pay right there and then. No more invoicing. So that's one thing that you don't have to worry about. You don't have to worry about the fact that customers haven't paid because they can't book you without paying. You don't have to chase up, have they paid? Are we ready for the sessions? Oh, we've had 3 sessions and we're still paying. Oh, this is awkward.
Yeah.
And now we're getting all those other mind dramas that we're putting. Oh, maybe they want to cancel. Maybe they don't really work with me, et cetera, et cetera. And then that all becomes tiring too.
It does indeed. And even simple things like using Calendly just to automatically book in times with your calendar. There are so many great tools out there. The mindset is about how do I make and run my practice in a more efficient way to allow me to work in the business and not have to work as much on the business.
Yeah.
In a way, really. So use tech where needed. But in terms of working on the business, have you got any great examples of how you might have helped a budding coach move away from that technician mindset and really got them up and running with a workflow that's working really well?
I had a client that really hated social media, absolutely couldn't stand it. So she wasn't posting, she wasn't following up phone calls. She was basically getting herself in a bit of a spiral because she didn't want to post. She didn't want to be out there. She wanted to do the coaching.
Yeah, she just wanted to work as a technician.
Yeah. So what happened was we had a chat about what she was doing, what she wanted to do. She needed 10 clients for the time period. I can't remember if it was a month or a week, but whatever she needed 10 clients. So we worked on the fact that she had been coaching for a very long time. What had worked before? She had a huge database. So we just sent out a couple of emails with a program that was coming up. Click. She had a 10, just like that.
Get that.
So then she was actually able to work in her business and on her business because she'd lost that bit where she just got paralyzed and couldn't move forward and couldn't see a way at all to go. And then when she wanted to do something else, she just kept ticking over with that ongoing touch points through her newsletter and her email contact.
Right.
Perfect.
And
Easy.
those little wins also give you that positive reinforcement, and they actually create more energy, and you'll be more inspired to continue to do what you do because you see it working.
Yeah. I had another client where he just didn't know how to express what he did. You would ask him what he did and he went, I'm a coach. Doesn't sound like you want to work with that coach.
No.
So we looked at who he wanted to work with, where he wanted to work, what those fundamentals were. And then we worked on his elevator pitch, what he would say to people. And then he went out and started practicing talking to people.
Right.
Hey, what do you do? I am. And he said his couple of little lines.
Love it.
Perfect. Then he was able to get business cards because now he knows what kind of coach he is. He knows who he's coaching. Then he was able to start doing his LinkedIn because he knew what his messaging was going to be.
Yep.
Then he was thinking about maybe I need to get a website so that I can now host my calendar booking system. I could put in my payment gateway. Suddenly, we have a thriving practice.
Love that. How cool is it? I love to hear those kind of stories. That's fantastic. It's really just a matter of taking a step back and just understanding what you're doing every day and having a bit of a strategy, because that's the key. You can't do and I used to be guilty of this as well. Let's just roll with it and see what happens. But it just doesn't work. You have to have a strategy.
Yeah. And the other thing that people do is they've got to have everything right there, right now. Unfortunately, what happens then is you spend an awful lot of money on the one size fits all. Yeah. And you don't need half of it. And then the thing that you do need doesn't quite fit in and you outgrow that very quickly, but you don't need all the other 5 things. And now you find you can't actually get out of that either. You've got to restart. So start where you are. What do you need immediately right now?
Yeah.
Well, a booking calendar is definitely essential.
Yeah.
A payment option of how they can actually pay you. There you probably get to most. Then think about maybe a small website. Because if we're building everything on social media, it's really hard to find things. How do you send them back to stuff? Definitely. But don't be going and spending thousands and tens of thousands of dollars on these U-Butte systems that you probably are either going to outgrow very quickly or you don't need at all.
Indeed. And even funny you should say that. I went to a great webinar the other day on AI and they gave us some really good tools. And I've been playing around with one amazing website builder called Mixo, M-I-X-O. And for $9 a month, you can host a 1-page website and you can change it and adapt it and make it interactive. And it's a low-cost solution to having a quick website up and running, no hosting, all done for you. Right.
And that works really well if you're just trying to send people there. Yeah. If you're trying to get found on Google, well, that's a different story. But it might be a case of that's all you need in the beginning. It's like your digital business card. When you go out and meet people, you go here, go here, go here.
That's right.
Probably something you're going to outgrow, but it's cheap. So it's somewhere to start.
Yeah, definitely. So true. So, Cathy, I'd love to hear more about how you actually consult and work or engage with your coaches. What's the process like? What does it look like when someone says, all right, I want to work with you?
So it depends on where they're at. My very first general way is my book, The Coach's Marketing Roadmap, which is a real book. People say, oh, is that just an ebook? No, it's an actual real book. So that's the cheapest entryway. So you can get that through my website and later on in the year, it'll also be on Amazon. Okay. So that's the first step you can do. I also offer one-on-one coaching where we get really specific about something that you want to work on, whether it's starting or whether you have started and you need something specific to look at. And then I also have a group program called the Coaches Marketing Roadmap, where we actually go through the 10 steps to building that thriving business for you.
Okay, love it. And you work a lot of the time face-to-face or on Zoom or Teams or a bit of both?
All Zoom. The wonderful thing about COVID is that it's made it accessible for us to work all over the globe.
Yep.
And it just makes it easy. So, yep, all my coaching is done through Zoom.
Absolutely love that. And I believe you have your own podcast as well.
I do.
Tell us a
I
bit about
do.
that.
So I have Small Business Talk for Coaches,
Mhm.
which is a podcast where I basically give you lots of pearls of wisdom, and you can come and listen about everything from mindset to time management to marketing to what's getting in the way, all of those sort of things. Yeah, we're just a little ahead of you. We're at 242, I think.
Oh my God. How many years have you been podcasting for?
5.
5
So
years. Oh, I'm impressed.
we do it generally one episode a week, comes out on a Thursday Australian time. Yeah, lots of fun.
Impressive. And you talk to people all over the world?
We do. Majority of our audience is here in Australia, and the other big component of our audience is in America and Canada. But yes, you can get it all over the world at Spotify and all your usual podcast apps.
Ah, sensational. Sensational. And just to kind of revisit what we were talking about a bit earlier, just as a final point, what are some of the main roadblocks or obstacles or mental mindset blocks that you find when you're working with a coach and you just can't seem to get them to do what you want them to do?
So the main thing that stops most coaches is themselves.
Ah, funny that.
Yeah. We have imposter syndrome. We go, oh, especially coaches that don't have a certification, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you've got a skill level, then that's great. But we forget that generally we've got years and years of experience somewhere else. We've got life experience. Even though we've just newly been certified, we might have been in the industry or similar industries for multiple years.
Mm.
It's not a case of portraying yourself as somebody you're not, but you can bring in all of that life experience. You can bring in those things that you've done before. So the number one thing that stops coaches is themselves.
Is themselves. Yeah. It's just all about get out there, learn, grow, find the information you need to help you develop, and don't worry and obsess too much about all the details. Get out there, start and learn as you go. You don't have to have everything covered. None of us do.
No, and get a great coach. We're all
And
in
great, a
here
great coach. There you go.
to coach. So a coach needs to have a very good coach for themselves.
Love that. Very cool. So if people want to find you, Cathy, what's the best way? Go to Cathy Smith Coaching.
So cathysmith.com.au is the easiest way. That has all the links and everything else. I'm on all the socials. So look up Cathy Smith Coaching on all the socials and come and learn more about the Coaches Marketing Roadmap.
Beautiful. And if you want to learn a bit more through podcast means, then I'm sure that you've got your podcast on your website as well.
I do. And that's smallbusinesstalk.com.au
Business talk.
or at Spotify or any of the podcasting apps.
Love it. Very, very cool. Well, Cathy, it's been an absolute pleasure having on the show. I've learned a lot. You've reiterated a lot of the little things that I've heard over the years that I've just forgotten about. But I think it's really important to think about what we do every day and constantly refine and stretch ourselves to be a better version of what we're doing. Because if we just continue to do what we've always done, we just get stale and we don't grow. And what's the point if we don't grow?
Absolutely.
Really.
And then a final note, just put it out there. You don't have to be an A student. B+ work will actually help you to help a lot of people. If you obsess over getting it perfect and getting that perfection, you're never going to get it out there. There are so many people that have courses and books and fabulous things that could be helping others that are still sitting on their computer because that imposter syndrome. Who am I to do that? Why should I be doing that? You are you. There is nobody else that can do it like you.
Yep.
So just get out there and have a go.
And your audience will find you. That's another great theme or concept that I've kind of stuck with me over the years. Your audience will find you. Just be authentic, put your stuff out into the world, continue to refine it, and your audience will find you as you go.
Absolutely. As long as you are letting them. If you are hiding away in the dungeon, nobody will find you. And that no amount of manifesting will bring them in if you're not actually taking the action.
Very nice pickup there. Like I can definitely see a theme. Marketing, marketing, marketing. That's exactly what Cathy does. So if you want to learn about how to get your business in front of more people and not just become that technician that's really good at what you do, but nobody knows about you, check out Cathy, find her website, find her podcast, learn a bit more about what she does, reach out to her, and you can really learn to help you grow to become that next level of entrepreneur or business person.
Absolutely. And there's lots of free content to start with. And if you want to take the next step, just book in a discovery call.
Love it. Well, Cathy, really appreciate you coming on the show. It's been a fantastic episode. Everyone out there, please thank Cathy as I do. And we'll see you very, very soon for our next episode of Playing with Perspective, the Suspended Animation Podcast. Thanks, Cathy.
Thanks, Darren.
Bye for now. Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Playing with Perspective, the Suspended Animation Podcast. If you would like to join me as a guest on the show, I would be delighted to collaborate. Feel free to buzz me on 0414 659 800 or email me on darren@suspendedanimation.com.au. I'm always on the lookout for great guests who can share their stories and expertise with my community. Also, if you have been thinking about putting your own podcast together and not sure where to begin, look no further. I run a really simple 3-part podcasting course, one-on-one with me, where I walk you through the entire podcasting journey. You will end up with a fantastic new podcast to start sharing right away. Feel free to get in touch to discuss further. But for now, though, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.